Delighted now to be joined by Ciaran McGrath, and hopefully we'll have Tadgh O'Malley, the St. Michael's goalkeeper, in the next few minutes to look ahead to this week's county final, and I suppose to predict where will Frank Fox be spending the winter. Will it be in Salthill-Knocknacarra for the first time since 2012, or will it be in Moycullen returning there for the first time since 2020? It's going to be a real interesting West local derby. Ciaran, I suppose if we're to look maybe at the semi-finals over the weekend, I know for me looking ahead to this game, there's sort of a weird feeling that there's no North Galway team in the final. Maybe that's just me with my traditional hat on.
Yeah, hi Paul. Thanks for having me back. It is, yeah, it's unusual, and especially for the supporters from North Galway, there'd always be something to talk about going into it, or there'd be a bit of excitement or something. But it's an unusual pairing, but it's a nice pairing, and I'm sure people back west are looking forward to it. It's a local derby, I'd imagine. So it'll be, I'm sure there's huge interest back around Salthill and Moycullen.
Does it come as a shock to you with these two teams in it?
Well, after the weekend, probably not. But earlier on the championship, as I said last week, I thought when I saw Moycullen playing Corofin earlier on the year, I wasn't awfully impressed. I thought it was a two-horse race between Corofin and Moycullen after watching that game. Now, Moycullen improved that day and went on to win the game. So, but I did think if Corofin had to meet them again, Corofin might have the upper hand where they had areas to improve in. But, and we'll go through the game, I'm sure. But similar the last day with Moycullen, they don't tend to change it up too much. They stayed running down the middle of the Montbellew defence, and eventually they crack it, especially with Sean Kelly's goal. And it works. So I suppose if it works, why change it?
Yeah, that I suppose the manner they bet Montbellew in is probably the biggest shock to everyone. Like, we all expected that to be a humdinger of a game, to go right down to the wire. Montbellew looked like, I suppose, throughout the season that they couldn't really put a foot wrong, and then I suppose for Moycullen to defeat them 3-9 to 9 then.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it's 9 points is a lot. It's a hammering, but watching the game, it didn't feel up until the last 5 or 10 minutes that Moycullen were going to pull away and win it by 9 points. From a Montbellew point of view, I suppose, looking at it from back in the days playing with Corofin, it's hard to do back to back. And what you'd find after you win, be it a county final or an All-Ireland series like we did early on the next season, you probably start well and everything looks great, and people say, "Just no one will stop Corofin." But as the longer the year goes on, I don't know whether it's just fatigue sets in or it's hard to keep that hunger or whatever it might be. It's harder to get them results. And in the past, like, people will talk about all Corofin won, but if you look back, like, we struggled with in 2015. Tuam had us on the ropes when we were All-Ireland champions. Should have won it. Tadgh, how are you?
How are you, Ciaran?
Not too bad. Tuam should have bet us that day, and we managed to come out with we got a score late on. I think Sicey pulled us through again as usual. Won the replay. 2019, same way. Tuam were 2 points up going into injury time. Sicey again. Montbellew, I think, had us on 18. Looked like they were going to defeat us, and I think Lundy came up with a score late on. So it's something that there's pattern from the past, I suppose, where teams struggle to do back to back, and it just felt that Montbellew ran out ideas, probably lacked a bit of hunger, and some of their better players just didn't play well enough to beat the likes of Moycullen.
Just before I bring Tadgh in there, you talked there about back to back. Like, the challenge there, is it mentally and physically where you're, I suppose, getting that biggest challenge? Maybe do you not realize it until, I suppose, how much of a challenge it is until you're kind of in them knockout stages?
Yeah, and I suppose what happened Montbellew in that Connacht series, does that have a mental effect? And it's later on the year that it probably comes back to haunt you. Similar happened to us when we lost to Bridget's in 2011. It felt like we were robbed. But like next thing you're really determined to come back, and we started 2012 strong, and I remember beating Tuam early on the championship. But by the time the semi-final came, we just looked like a team that were mentally and physically fatigued and really struggled. So I think as a group, when that happens, you meet, or after you win something, you meet and you want to go again, and you're really talking it up. And unfortunately, it's easier to talk about doing these things than actually doing them. And in Corofin, we probably ended up mastering how to do it and peaking at the right time. And maybe Montbellew, when they look back, were probably going too well too soon and didn't peak at the right time.
Tadgh, obviously your first year with St. Michael's this year, but myself and Ciaran were only talking there about the county final this weekend. Salthill-Knocknacarra and Moycullen. You could say kind of a city westboard final, whatever you want to call it, but it does feel different, I suppose, with two teams, you could say, nearly from the city in the county final this weekend.
Oh yeah, massively. Like, you're so accustomed to seeing Montbellew or Corofin in the final now, and now it's Salthill and Moycullen. It's a change, but it'll be a good final. I see. Hopefully, the weather conditions hold out. We actually see a bit of football instead of just like two teams slogging it out in the rain as per usual in Pearse Stadium. But here's fingers crossed now that it'll be a good final. Like,
is there excitement around the city now with, I suppose, these two teams in it?
You'd say that now. Like, Moycullen, there's always been excitement ever since 2010. Like, there's been buzz in the air out there, and Salthill, finally they're coming of age. Like, you know, some of the younger players there, Evan Murphy and Daniel Flaherty and Evan Nolan. Then you have the likes of Tomo and Rob Finnerty really spearheading the attack. Like, yeah, you could say there is a huge buzz in the air at the moment, like in the city.
And Tadgh, just before we do, I suppose, get into the final in depth, your first year this was St. Michael's, playing senior football. How did you find it?
Good crack. Like, they're very inviting. Like, I felt straight away like I was at home. Like, they're a sound old bunch, and yeah, it was great first year put down. Hopefully now we can push on, maybe get a bit further in the second year. Like, the injuries didn't help us there going into the quarterfinal, but can't make excuses. Sand it down, turn us over, like, and the better team won on the day.
And like every keeper, you were playing the fly keeper role this year?
Yeah. Kind of past was new for me, really, getting up that far up the pitch. Like, there was a couple of times there I got a bit nervous. I got a bit of a scare against Carlos Strand where I dropped the ball, but thankfully enough the defenders saved me on that one. But yeah, it was going well. Hopefully we'll push on a bit more next year, might get a score or two in it.
But anyways, we can't focus too much, I suppose, on the semi-finals because they're done now. It is Moycullen and Salthill. Gizzy, it's nearly similar distances when you would have played Tuam, and I suppose when these players know each other so well, what's it like going in facing each other then in the county final?
Yeah, there's, I suppose, mixed feelings about it. You're excited in one sense that you're in a county final, you're buzzing, it's your local rivals, and one party is thinking, great, geez, we've a great opportunity here now, and you're talking about in your own head, can we just hammer them and send them packing? And then there's another party wondering, Jesus, what if they beat us? You'll find it hard to recover from a defeat like that. So them emotions go through your head. And like, once the whistle is blown in, you know that you're just going to get a battle, that it's, regardless of form or who has the better side or better players, that it's going to go to the wire when it's a local derby. And I'm sure Moycullen will probably go in as favourites, but Salthill will, the fact that it is a local derby and it's a county final, Salthill won't be far away.
And Tadgh, you know, I suppose a lot of the lads on either team this weekend. Like, would you say there's a dislike there between the two clubs?
Well, there's always been a dislike between Salthill and Moycullen, like with the underage, like from the get-go, really, there is a serious rivalry, but a lot of these lads are very friendly with each other all the same. Like looking at the team sheets, like a lot of these lads would have been in college together or would have gone to secondary school together. Like, so you'll see on the day, both teams are fighting for the trophy at the end of the day. Like, so there could be a few cards shown, you know.
And like with the final, it's obviously taking place on Sunday, Ciaran. From a Salthill perspective, like we talked about last week on the podcast, free shots. Like it does feel like a bit of a free shot because I suppose Moycullen are going to be favourites from that semi-final performance, dismantling the county champions by 9 points.
Yeah. And the fact that they won it 2 years ago, and in fact, they look like they're serious about what they're doing. They've added to their management team, and they obviously wanted at the start of the year not only to compete and win a county title, but obviously they were looking further ahead as well. And if you have aspirations, that's what you're doing as a group. Salthill, look at the way some of their guys are playing. The last day again, Cathal Sweeney looked very good. Tomo and Rob Finnerty, and them three names came up last week. They came up again this week, and I'm sure if you go back over the summer, them three names came up a lot. So they're three key players and are playing very well for Salthill and made a big difference again the last day. And then obviously the flip side is can Salthill deal with Sean Kelly? He's a player I wouldn't have saw much of, but you hear great things about him. But the last time when you're watching him, I mean, it's just like it was like a warrior performance. He obviously is a good footballer, but like he's a great attitude. You see him back at the backs at one stage, and he's diving on a ball, diving in to win a ball. He turns it over, he lays it off, and next thing they're up the pitch, and they're literally turning around looking for him to come again, and he's coming like a rugby centre. He's coming up the middle, and he's carrying it forward, and the minute it's turned over, he's back again. It was an excellent performance for him, and he looks like not only a serious athlete but a serious footballer too, to be fair.
Like Tadgh, I suppose it's a massive turnaround when you consider Salthill didn't get out of the group last year, lost to Monavea in Kenny Park, really caught up with them, didn't get out of the group. Obviously, you bring a manager in like John O'Mahony, he is a man to turn things around, but like it's not solely just that, like because I suppose they have been labelled really as underachievers in Galway football, and that's hard when it's still such a young group when you look at this Salthill team. But like, what have they done for you that's got them to the county final?
They just done the basics right, like, you know, like when they were against Tuam and things got a bit sticky, like they kept the ball, they minded it well, and like the younger lads, they've got that year experience under their belt now. That's really pushed them on. Like those young and talented footballers are now stepping up to the plate. Like Tomo's really stepped up, Cathal Sweeney's really stepped up, Rob Finnerty he's putting down a huge marker, like leading the line. And then with the restarts from like kickouts, Lavelle is just pinging them. He finds John Maher 60, 70 yards and he's straight down. They get the restarts going straight away. Like I think that's some like basics that they're getting right. Like, and I suppose once you do the basics right, all follows and falls in place.
And Gizzy, like you would have faced them in previous years, and like ultimately they were labelled as underachievers.
Yeah. Sorry, Gizzy.
Sorry, Tadgh. Yeah, we would, but they still, like, you'd always worry about Salthill when you play them because they have such talent, to be fair, and they always had young lads coming through. Probably when we played them, they were overly reliant on Sean Armstrong and Finian at the back. But I think they're probably a more well balanced side now. That the younger guys are that bit older, and there's a bit more to them. And they seem to be playing okay. We mentioned three guys there that are really standing out for them, but there's other guys doing their job, and they've really impressed throughout the year. So, to be fair, they are where they are, and they've earned the right to be there.
And even the last day, which stood out massively, Tadgh, like things weren't going well, but like Donny Hunt, who came on at halftime, like made a huge influence in that game.
Yeah, He's a brilliant footballer. Like, got him from Kerry. Like, I think he's good friends with a few of the boys from college. I think Rob Walter got him into the club. Like, or one of the boys, anyways. They're friendly enough with him. Quality footballer. He was involved in the Sigerson panel there last year. Like, and he's a real leader. Like, just solid runner. Like, non-stop, and he'll give you his all. Like, once he goes, like, it's non-stop. Like.
Yeah, you'd imagine like he's going to start this weekend now after that performance at the weekend. Tadgh.
Surely, like.
Yeah, no, you'd have to think he definitely would. But
I thought he was excellent too, Paul, against Tuam. I'm surprised he didn't start against Anadown, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd imagine there had to be some sort of injury because he did really.
He was going to start right.
Yeah, he came on as number 9, but just surprised he didn't. You talked there about 3 players, Gizzy, for Salthill, obviously they have huge influence, but you could say for Moycullen there's 3 brothers that have huge influence in the Kellys because they were just Paul and Sean were just absolutely outstanding. There's one moment in that Montbellier game where I suppose Paul Kelly's racing through and he just shoves one of the Montbellier lads out of the way and kicks it over the bar.
Yeah, and I think obviously we talk about Sean Kelly and his influence, but Paul as well, the last day probably doesn't get as much praise as Sean and mightn't, if you're looking at comparing the two, mightn't be as good, but he probably ended the game the last day with 3 or 4 points, and especially in the first half he might have kicked 3 points when they really needed scores. I think that was Paul Donlan that was chasing him. Paul would be strong, Paul would be fast as well, so to beat him for pace and power and shrug him off, as you said, and kick it over the bar, to have a player that's able to do that, it's a huge bonus for any team.
Like as well, like me and Gizzy were talking off air, and the biggest coup really for Moycullen this year, and he's gone under the radar, I think, completely. Micheál O'Reilly, the last day, outstanding.
Like he's been pulling out massive scores for them all season. Like, and someone was saying to me that he's playing junior at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think he was on their intermediate team. That was it.
Yeah, intermediate. Like, Jesus, they've really pulled him out of the woods. Like, and he's brilliant. Like, he's popping up. What did he score last day? 1-2.
I think it was 1-3. It could have 1-2, 1-3.
Like, that's serious going. Like,
yeah, and even the man-marking job on John Daly, like
there,
at the weekend, is just crazy. And
he looks strong. He looks powerful and athletic. I don't know if has he a rugby background but he just looks. He caught, and there was times he probably was back post that if they got their head up, they could have put him in for another goal or 2, or at least opportunities. But he looks to be a good addition to them and a good player.
Is he getting into talk now? Do you feel maybe for a Galway conversation?
Well, he's pushing hard in my eyes, like.
Yeah, no, because just on the performance on John Daly at the weekend, it has to raise eyebrows anyways.
I think anyone, Paul, that plays well for their club at any stage probably deserves a chance to be brought into an inter-county panel and just given a bit of time in there to see. I mean, if you go back over teams, but a few that stand out, Rory O'Connor for Tuam was very good against Salthill and against Corofin. So he's another guy that probably goal management should be looking at.
Yeah, no, he definitely did seem to be on a lot of team of the weeks throughout the championship. So he definitely is catching the eyebrows. Tadgh, I presume like everyone, you have Moycullen favourites this weekend?
Well, like Moycullen had the matchups against Montbellier to a T, like, so I'd say on paper, you're looking at both those teams, you'd favour Moycullen, but Salthill will push them, like, and they'll make a game of it. People think Moycullen are standout favourites, but Salthill will be thereabouts. Like, they didn't get to a final on a fluke, like.
And Tadgh, you would have worked with some of this Moycullen management team. with the NUIG Sigerson there throughout the year.
Yeah.
Like that Moycullen management, they maybe are starting to get the plaudits now they deserve, I suppose, being in their second county final in 3 years. But like, what do they bring to the table?
I suppose sense of camaraderie that management crew, like, they get into teams. Like, I was involved as a player there, I think 4 years ago in college, and now I went back last year just kind of helping out. But like, they show like that they care about the players, like, and they get like a huge sense of camaraderie within the panel, not just 1 to 15, but 1 to 30. Like, and they pull boys aside if they're ever like struggling with anything. Like, they talk to them 1-to-1. Like, they just show like huge effort, and they don't leave any stone unturned. Like, you know, you seen the last day for against Mount Bellew, they got their matchups to a T. Like, and then the Sigerson as well. Like, they played some serious outfits. Like, and they won. They got to the end, got to Sigerson, but like 2020, people said, "Oh, it was just a fluke." But that Moycullen team is quality, and that management team know what they're doing. Like,
yeah, no, they definitely do seem to be getting some of the plaudits now they deserve. I suppose to get into some of the matchups, I suppose if we're to start with the Salthill forwards, you're obviously looking at Robert Finnerty and Tomo. Now, the interesting thing is, Gizzy, like, we expected Sean Kelly to go into the backs last week. He didn't. Do you expect him to do similar this weekend?
To be fair, like, I think Moycullen management deserve huge credit for that, because that was a gamble. It looked for everyone to see that the threat was the Mount Bellew full forward line, and even with Owen Finnerty starting, which looked like it was a doubt, but he started, that was even more of a threat. And I thought they used Sean Kelly very wisely. The obvious choice was to put him back there, put him back on the biggest threat, be it Barry McHugh or Owen Finnerty. And they just seemed to put him in the forwards, let him come back and play his own game, and it really worked. So I'd imagine they'd stick with that tactic again. Would they be brave enough to do something different? I think the guys that picked up the forwards for Mount Bellew did their job and did it very well. So I'd imagine them guys will probably pick up the two guys of Tomo and Robert Finnerty, and leave Sean Kelly in that role of just go and do whatever you want.
Tadgh, Neil Mulcahy at Sigerson level, he seemed to be the NUIG go-to man marker back then. He seems to be the Moycullen go-to man marker as well. But a player like Robert Finnerty this year, when he gets into his groove, he's twisting right, he's twisting left.
Paul, you broke up a little there.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Neil Mulcahy, I was just saying, seems to be Moycullen's go-to man marker. Is he someone that you think will tie up with Robert Finnerty this weekend?
I reckon he'll go on Tomo, and I'd reckon Sean might take up Rob. That, in my view, Mulcahy is a brilliant man marker. He's very strong, reads the game well, and I can see Sean going back on Rob. That's just my opinion, but what do I know?
It does seem like it'd be a good move to get Sean back there, because I suppose Robert Finnerty this year, Tadgh, as I was saying before I lost you there, he's been turning right, turning left, jinking in and out, and nearly similar to Shane Walsh. It's just it's been class to watch, but like, it's been so effortless for him.
Yeah, he's so evasive. Like, you wouldn't expect it. Like, just even watching him, like, boys just think they have him, and then boom, he's lost him. He's gone. Throws a jink, throws a little drop of the shoulder, and it's over the bar. Like, it makes it look so effortless. Like,
then like Gizzy, we were saying there about Donny Hunt coming in. He could possibly be someone to come in. Brian Conlon could be possibly someone to come in. Do Salthill, Moycullen are obviously going to play with numbers behind the ball, but do Salthill, like, what kind of forward line would, if you're over Salthill, are you looking for there? Are you looking for the hard workers? Because Moycullen are obviously going to bring like a lot of numbers and counter, because like even they've won a lot of games this year, but they don't maybe have the ball for as long as periods as you would think.
Yeah, it's hard to know if to get numbers back. Then you're looking to get that ball to your shooters, not give it away cheaply. Get your ball, get Tomo on the loop and get Rob Finnerty on the loop. And if they're sitting back, try and kick the scores from distance, and weather will play a part there, obviously. And then Salthill have a decision to make of who do they put on Sean Kelly. We're saying, will Sean Kelly go back and Rob Finnerty? Salthill might look at putting Rob Finnerty on Sean Kelly, or Sweeney, Garage Armstrong, maybe mix it up between 2 or 3 players, probably look at picking up a couple of yellows from 2 or 3 different players. Because if you look at Montpellier the last day, and it wouldn't be like Montpellier, but Sean Kelly seemed to run, and even for the goal, his run wasn't tracked, and them runs need to be stopped early. It mightn't be the right thing to do or the nicest thing to do, but in a county final, if you let Sean Kelly go from his 21 to your 21, you're asking for trouble. So it could be a case where Garage Armstrong might pick him up for a bit. If he picks up a yellow, maybe Rob Finnerty goes on him, picks up a yellow, and then so on and so forth. But you can't let Sean Kelly dictate like he did in that semi-final, because if he does, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, it's like that game, I suppose, where the second goal comes, Tadgh, it's a trademark Sean Kelly run. I suppose it's so like, as Gizzy was saying there, like you almost do need to take the yellow, because like these are goals we've seen Sean Kelly, like so many of them he's scored from this trademark run he loves.
When he gets going, he's hard to stop, like, and Gizzy is right, like, they'll have to play smart the next day, like the odd foul here and there, take the yellow, try and just nullify him as much as possible. But like, it's easy saying stop Sean, but then there's Owen to follow or Paul to follow, and then not to mention Peter Cook as well coming along, Owen Gallagher too, like they're serious ball carriers as well, like, so there's only so many yellows you can take, I suppose.
And Peter Cook and Owen Gallagher, I think, wouldn't be happy with their overall performance the last day. So they're probably going into that county final with a point to prove. So Tadgh is right. They're going to need. We're putting a lot of emphasis on Sean Kelly, and yeah, they'll have to deal with him first. But there is other players that will need watching and need marking. Definitely, and
especially for Cookie, like Cookie missed out on the last final, like, so I'd say he's as hungry as they come, like.
Yeah, especially when he did miss out on that in 2020. Gizzy as well, is Peter Cook and John Mayer. Is this like going? This could be a battle here, really, that could decide it.
Yeah, like with all the tactics that's in football now, I think it still goes back to whoever wins midfield. It's very simple thing to say, or it might sound very simplistic, but if you win midfield, it's a great springboard, and you usually go a long way to winning the game. And to be fair to Billy Mannion, the last day did very well on Peter Cook and nullified him. So that'll be interesting to see if himself and John Maher pick up each other, who win that battle. And kickouts will play a part again. I think one or two of the Moycullen kickouts didn't help matters. I think one or two of them went out over the sideline and stuff, and you can't afford that. You can't afford that in a county final. They need to be spot on. They need to be right. And anytime Corofin were successful, the springboard usually came from Bernie Power or Tom Healy. And that will play a big part again the next day.
We talked about Sean Kelly. Tadgh, is Cathal Sweeney someone that Moycullen need to man mark? Because I suppose the last day against Down, like, you knew when that hand pass kind of went to Sweeney and the space was there, you could tell nearly from 30, 40 yards, this is a great chance of being a goal.
Yeah, onion. I reckon Paul Kelly will probably go on him. Like, they know each other. They've been underage with each other. Paul has a serious engine as well. Like, that's who I reckon will go on him. But Cathal Sweeney, he's a stocky young lad. He can run for days, like, and he has a serious boot on him as well. Like, so yeah, I reckon probably Paul might go on him, track his runs, just kind of try and prevent him from getting up the pitch as much as possible. Like, yeah.
With Salthill defensively as well, Tadgh mentioned Daniel O'Flaherty has been very good. Then Owen Dealey at centre back, the full back line. Then William Finnerty, Gareth Armstrong, Owen McFadden. They just seem to be like defensively that back six. They just seem collectively as a unit to be very solid, because even like they still are maybe going 1-1 at stages, but they just seem to be excellent at getting around the ball.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, just Salthill, I suppose. Their six backs, they seem to be collectively like really screwed on defensively.
I'd say that's from the management side of things as well. Like, I'd say that's what they've been instilled from the start of the season. Like, with O'Mahony coming in, like just getting the basics right. Like, and they are six very good backs. Like, but they also have to deal with the six very good forwards that are going to be facing them the next day. So it'll be a right battle. Like, that full forward line of Moycullen. You know, you said it earlier, Gizzy. Like, Owen Gallagher was fairly quiet for his standards, but also Desi Keneally. Like, you have to look at it. What was the 2020 final? Desi put up 1-9, so that Salthill backline will have to focus on Desi all the same too. Like,
yeah, and especially because we talked about Micheál O'Reilly, but like Desi Keneally is another one that they're two really like two of Moycullen's inside forwards that they really have to go after.
Yeah, and it's only when you start naming names and listing them off like that, when you mention Desi again, you forget some of these guys. But like sure, Desi's a huge threat in club football, and like Salthill will have their work cut out at the back. Do the play sweeper, potentially, because if Desi and the few other forwards we mentioned get going, Salthill could be in trouble, you know. So maybe they might look to just keep it solid for especially early on. Maybe play sweeper, maybe free up Gareth Armstrong, and not concede any early goals.
Just with that, Gizzy, like we're talking a lot about Moycullen, Salthill, local derby, a lot of young players, like the age profile of this county final as well, a lot of young players. But do you think, like, for the younger players, do you think there'll be a lot of nerves going into this one?
I think there will. I think regardless of what age you are, a county final is very nerve-wracking. And I played in a few of them, and they didn't get any easier. They didn't, and sometimes your easiest might have been your first one, more so than the ones in between. But it will, because you have the band, you have national anthem, you have the parade, you have a lot that goes with a county final. So I think everyone would be nervous. Even the Moycullen lads that played in it in 2020, they played without supporters that time. I think maybe your only allowed family was maybe 500 or something. So that's going to be a new experience for them too. So both sides will be nervous. And even if you looked at the semi-final between Montbellew and Moycullen, like the skill set at times was poor. And that's probably down to nerves too, that both teams are doing a bit of shadow boxing early on. But for such good players on display, at times it looked poor. So I'd imagine that was probably both sides were a bit nervous, not wanting to make a mistake that might cost them. And the final will probably be the same way.
Tadgh, if you were to give the first call this weekend to where Frank Fox be spending the winter, where do you think he'd be going?
I'd be more inclined to look at Moycullen. Probably will, but Salthill will put up a serious battle. I'd say there'll be only about a point or two in it, but I'm going to tip Moycullen.
And Gizzy?
Yeah, same, Paul. Look at goals win games. Can Salthill get enough of them and stop Moycullen from getting them? But when you go through the list of names we named for Moycullen, it's hard to look past Moycullen. But Sean Armstrong as well. We're mentioning John O'Mahony, but Sean Armstrong and Finian Hanley are involved there too. And they have a lot of football played. They'll be cute. They'll know the game inside out. So that'll stand to Salthill too. But you would have to think it's Moycullen's to lose, especially after knocking out Montbellew and beating Corofin in the 1 year. If you do that, you'll go a long way to win the county title, I think.
fascinating battle awaits. 1:45 on Sunday in Pierce Stadium. Just something I do want to touch on, lads, before we do go. The All-Stars taking place Friday night. I suppose they've kind of got caught, and I suppose a lot of people in Galway are forgetting about them, I suppose, with the county final coming up this weekend. But it was a great year for Galway. Like, Tadgh, like, how many All-Stars would you expect in Galway to pick up on Friday night?
Cillian, Damo, Shane, Liam, maybe Shawnee. Depends, how many they give Kerry. Like, will they give 2 to Derry? Will they give 1 to Armagh? It all depends. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Shawnee does get a shout for one, but I'd say Liam, John Daly as well. Liam, John Daly, Killy McDade, Damo, and Shane. 5.
Do you think they'll get to 5, Gizzy?
To be fair, them 5 names that are listed probably are, if they don't get one, are really close to getting one. I would think probably they'll give Galway 3 maybe. If they get 4, that'll be the max. But I think Liam, Cillian, and Shane will be the definite 3. And if we get one more on top of that, I think I think we'll definitely get 3.
Something as well, I suppose. Jack Lynn's nominated for Young Footballer of the Year. I think he's coming up against Ethan Doherty in League Annan. Like, he looks like he's in a good position, I suppose, especially when he did have such a good All Ireland final with the job he done on Paddy Clifford type.
Oh, he's very solid, like, and he's a brilliant player. Like, I'd say he will win that now, to be fair, compared to the other 2. Like, Jack had a brilliant season. Like, he's such a sturdy young lad, like, solid. And like, when we played them, he wasn't playing, thankfully enough. Like, he made a huge difference.
Do you think Jack Lynn could get that, Gizzy?
I think so, yeah. And it's hard to begrudge him. I think looking back, I thought he was good against Armagh as well. Did his job against Derry and had a good final. So that's all you can ask of him, really, to be fair.
Yeah, Shane Walsh and Killian McDade nominated for Footballer of the Year, but coming up against a man like David Clifford, I suppose, is the biggest task for them there. But that's all on our show. Thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks to the lads for coming on.